You clock in for another workday. Same machine noise, same smell of oil and metal, same routine you've repeated 100 times before. It feels safe, ordinary, but in seconds, routine factory shifts have turned into scenes of unthinkable pain. What begins as a normal day ends with unimaginable screams. Accidents so horrifying they change safety laws forever. Today we uncover true stories of when factory work turned deadly. 1. The printing press disaster. Crushed by speed. Factories that produce newspapers and books often work against the clock. Giant printing presses roar day and night, paper flying through rollers faster than the eye can follow. The sound is deafening, the room hot, the air filled with ink and dust. One worker, tasked with keeping the machine moving, noticed a jam. His job was simple. Reach inside, free the paper, and get the press running again. He had done this countless times before, but on that day, a single miscalculation turned fatal. As he leaned forward, the massive rollers caught his arm, dragging him inside. Co-workers shouted, slamming on the emergency button, but the press was too powerful and too fast. Within seconds, metal cylinders, weighing hundreds of pounds, crushed his body. The press ground to a stop. The silence after the crash was more terrifying than the noise. His colleagues stared in shock at the machine that only minutes ago had been routine, now transformed into an executioner. But presses aren't the only machines hiding death. Sometimes it's the smell of food that masks the deadliest heat. 2. The Tuna Factory Horror, trapped in the oven. In California, food processing plants run on strict schedules. Conveyor belts rattling, forklifts buzzing, machines steaming. At one tuna cannery, large industrial ovens sterilized fish at temperatures hotter than boiling water. On one shift, workers loaded racks of tuna into the oven. But somehow one of them, 62-year-old Jose, ended up inside. Co-workers assumed the oven was empty and sealed it. By the time anyone realized he was missing, the machine had been running for hours. When crews finally opened the door, the unbearable truth was revealed. There was nothing left to save. Colleagues stood frozen, many breaking down in tears on the factory floor. OSHA investigators later ruled workplace negligence. Protocols ignored, safety checks skipped. Lawsuits followed. Jose's family said what no compensation could erase. He went to work to feed us. The factory baked him alive. What they discovered inside that oven scarred not only a family, but an entire industry. 3. The iron pot catastrophe. Molten metal. Steel plants, where temperatures burn hotter than volcanoes, are some of the most dangerous workplaces on Earth. Massive ladles filled with molten iron, glowing orange, bubbling like hellfire, hang above workers' heads. Safety depends on cables, hooks, and human attention. In one case, a pot carrying tons of liquid iron was being lifted across the shop floor. Without warning, the support gave way. The ladle tipped, releasing a wave of molten metal. It poured across the floor like lava, enveloping everything in its path. Workers nearby had no chance. The heat was so intense it melted safety boots before people could run. The roar of metal spilling out drowned their screams. Colleagues stood powerless, unable even to approach. The entire section of the factory, a furnace. When the fire finally calmed, the scene was too horrific to describe. Steelworkers who had spent decades in the plant admitted they had never witnessed such destruction. But not all factories roar with fire. Some look harmless, even like kitchens, yet hide deadly traps. 4. The Burrito Grinder Tragedy, dragged inside. Food production plants can look clean, even cheerful. The smell of tortillas, spices, beans. Workers stand in assembly lines, repeating the same motions. But hidden within the hum of conveyor belts are machines capable of shredding steel. In one plant, a worker was assigned near an industrial grinder. For hours, she packed ingredients into the hopper without issue. But one shift, her clothing snagged. It took less than a second for the grinder to pull her inside. Her co-workers screamed, reaching for emergency controls. Lights flashed, machinery screeched to a stop, but it was too late. The grinder's gears had already done their work. Colleagues stood in shock, refusing to leave the floor, haunted by what they had seen. Counselors visited the plant afterward, but no training could erase the memory. Her co-workers said later, "We couldn't do anything but watch." 5. The acid tank incident, dissolved in silence. Chemical factories are some of the most unforgiving work sites. Tanks filled with corrosive acid sit open during cleaning and refilling. In one incident, a man slipped directly into a massive acid vat. Witnesses recalled only seconds of screams before silence. The acid was so corrosive, colleagues couldn't reach him without risking their own lives. Emergency responders arrived, but it was far too late. Investigators confirmed that not only was safety railing missing, the worker hadn't even been given proper protective equipment. The tank was eventually drained. What remained was so grim, officials refused to release details publicly. Every factory builds products, but these factories build tragedies engraved in pain. Lessons written in pain. All 5 stories began as ordinary days, clearing a printer jam, loading tuna racks, pouring molten steel, grinding burritos, checking a chemical tank, but all of them ended in irreversible horror. Families waiting for calls after shifts instead received visits from company officials. Mothers asked why there were no rails. Children asked why better locks weren't on ovens. Wives asked why inspection logs had been falsified. Each accident sparked lawsuits, new training, stricter rules, emergency stop protocols renewed for presses, locking mechanisms mandated on sterilizer ovens, better cranes and ladles in steel plants, clothing rules for grinders, railings and harnesses near open chemical tanks. But rules always followed blood. Reforms always came too late. Factories exist to create, to print books, can food, build cars, produce steel, yet in these moments they created nothing but grief. Behind every statistic is more than an accident. It's a life torn away, a family broken, colleagues haunted by memories of screams they can still hear in the walls. These stories remind us, no matter how ordinary the workday feels, safety is never optional. A locked gate, a double check of a harness, a second glance at gauges. Those seconds may be the only thing between routine and tragedy. These were the deadly accidents that turned ordinary factory work into horror. If you want more deep dives into the world's darkest tragedies, subscribe and join us. Because behind every number is a name, behind every statistic is a heartbeat, and behind every tragedy, a life that mattered.